Have you prayed for provision yet only met delay? Have you fasted until your body trembled yet the chains of lack did not break? Have you given until your hands were empty, yet your heart remained heavy with shame? Beloved, I know the weight of this silent suffering. I lived in that shadow, worshiping faithfully, serving diligently, yet walking home with pockets empty and a soul questioning. Is poverty truly my portion in Christ? My name is Samantha Davidson. I never thought I would share this. For years I have carried it in silence, pressing it down, locking it away inside my chest. But silence is no longer possible, because I died. My heart stopped, my breath was taken, and in a single moment, the veil was torn, and I crossed into the realm where secrets cannot hide. Before I begin, let me warn you, what I am about to reveal is not a story. It is not entertainment. It is a burden, a fire shut up in my bones, and a revelation that shook my life to the foundations. Listen carefully. For if you turn away now, you may remain blind to the same deception that bound me for years. But hear me. Poverty is not holiness. Poverty is not humility. Poverty is not a crown of glory. Poverty is a prison. And in my hour of death, I saw who built its walls. I remember the weight of darkness swallowing me, a tide that dragged me under. My body was gone, and yet I was more alive than ever. There, in the place beyond time, I stood exposed before eternity. No mask, no pretense, no excuse could follow me across. And in that place, he came. Jesus, the Lamb, the Judge, the one whose eyes burn like fire. He called my name in the dark, and when he spoke, truth pierced through me like a sword. He did not show me heaven's beauty first, nor did he comfort me with visions of joy. No. He revealed a secret the church does not want to see, a secret the powers of hell have fought to keep hidden. He showed me the spirit that keeps Christians bound in poverty. I saw it. I saw its shape, its hunger, its strategy. I saw how it slithered into pulpits, how it disguised itself as humility, how it whispered lies into the ears of believers until they accepted lack as holiness and shame as obedience. I saw how it fed on the prayers of the desperate and laughed at the offerings of the faithful. And I trembled because I knew this was not only a vision, it was the unveiling of the prison that has held millions captive. Even now, as I speak, I feel its resistance. It does not want this testimony spoken. It does not want you to hear me. I vowed that if breath returned to me, if these lungs opened again, I would not remain silent. I would expose it, no matter the cost. The truth must be told, even if it costs me everything. The truth must be told, even if it costs me everything. The truth must be told, even if it costs me everything. But hear me. Before I go further, you must decide. If you turn away now, this door may never open to you again. This revelation is dangerous. The spirit of poverty works tirelessly to silence every voice that dares to unmask it. If you scroll away, if you treat this as another passing word, you may never find it again. And when the day of lack swallows you, you will remember that you had a chance to hear, but you walked away. The truth must be told, even if it costs me everything. Stay with me, beloved. Do not turn away. For what I saw beyond the veil will either set you free or condemn you if you choose to ignore it. Before the night I died, before the veil was torn, my life looked ordinary, almost painfully ordinary. I would wake before the sun rose, sometimes to the sound of silence, sometimes to the echo of my own sighs. I would shuffle to the kitchen, pour a cup of coffee into a chipped mug, and sit at the small wooden table cluttered with unopened envelopes. Bills stacked like accusations, each one a reminder that my prayers had not yet broken through. I would stare at them, whispering under my breath, "Lord, why is breakthrough so far from me? Why do I fast? Why do I pray? And yet chains remain around my hands." And then I would silence myself, ashamed to even think such words, because I had been taught that faith never questions. Day after day, I lived in the rhythm of striving, working long hours, holding on to small victories that always seemed overshadowed by larger defeats. I would celebrate a little provision, only to see it devoured by a sudden debt. I would cling to a small miracle, only to watch it drowned by greater lack. My lips spoke thanksgiving, but my heart wrestled with heaviness. There were Sundays when I sang with the congregation, hands lifted, voice trembling, but deep inside I felt the same question burn like an unquenchable ember. Why are we still poor? Why do we, the children of the King, live as beggars in his house? And yet I carried on. I smiled. I encouraged others. I quoted verses of provision even while I avoided the landlord's eyes. I laid hands on the sick, yet my own soul was weary. Something was off. Something unseen was pressing on me. I did not know it then, but I can say it now. Poverty is not just earthly, it is spiritual warfare. It is not simply the absence of money. It is the presence of a spirit, a force, a design from hell to choke out faith, to blind the eyes, to wear down the saints until they confuse bondage for holiness. But in those days, I only felt the symptoms. I thought my failure was personal. I thought my lack was proof that I had not prayed hard enough, that I had not given enough, that I had not believed enough. I carried guilt like a second skin, never realizing that guilt itself was one of the weapons the spirit of poverty used to keep me silent. Morning after morning, I poured coffee, whispered desperate prayers, and walked into the busyness of life. Bills followed me, worries trailed me, and yet something deep inside whispered that I was standing on the edge of an unveiling. I just didn't know how close I was to death, or how close I was to the truth. He called my name in the dark. He called my name in the dark. He called my name in the dark. And I knew then, as I know now, that the battles we ignore become the chains we wear. If you have ever wondered why Christians pray yet remain broke, subscribe right now. If you refuse, then at least have the courage to go into the comments and explain why you would rather stay blind while others wake up. He called my name in the dark. I remember the day when everything shifted, when the thin veil between here and there was torn before me. It was not a day that gave warning. The sky was ordinary, the hours unremarkable, the rhythm of life moving as it always did. Familiar, weary, predictable. But death seldom announces itself. It waits, it watches, and then it comes like a thief. I felt it first as a trembling in my chest, a sudden weight that pressed upon me like unseen hands. My breath caught, shallow and sharp, as though the very air had conspired to flee from my lungs. I thought it would pass. I thought it was nothing more than exhaustion, another symptom of carrying too many burdens for too long. But then came the collapse. My legs betrayed me, folding beneath me as though the earth itself had withdrawn its strength. The world slowed. Sound stretched into silence. The colors around me dimmed into gray. My body grew cold, unnaturally cold, as though life itself was retreating, pulling back from my skin. My vision blurred, not like sleep overtaking me, but like glass shattering in slow motion. Fractures spreading, light breaking into pieces. My heart faltered, each beat weaker than the last. I could hear it, faintly, like a distant drum fading into the night. And then even that sound began to vanish, leaving only a hollow quietness, a strange detachment, as though I were listening to the end of a song I once knew by heart. In those moments, panic tried to rise in me, but panic cannot live where death has already entered. My mind reached for fear, but fear had no ground to stand on. All I felt was release. Pain dissolved. Striving ceased. The heavy garments of this mortal life slipped from my shoulders, and I floated above them as if they had never been mine to carry. I saw myself, my body lying still, pale lips, trembling fingers, the chest rising and falling in shallow waves that soon stilled altogether. Around me were movements I could scarcely comprehend, hands rushing, voices crying, doctors leaning over me with urgency. But their urgency did not touch me. I was beyond their reach. Their panic was an echo, faint and meaningless, a shadow falling against a door that had already been closed. And then I began to rise, not by choice, not by will. It was as if unseen currents lifted me, carrying me higher, away from the frantic scene, away from the grip of time. The ceiling dissolved, the walls gave way, and I was drawn into a vast expanse where silence was alive, where stillness carried weight. I was no longer in the world of flesh. I was no longer bound by gravity or breath. I was suspended between realms, watching the place I had known fade into distance, like a fading dream I could no longer hold. And then came the light. It was not the sun, not a fire, not even brilliance as my eyes once knew it. It was presence. It was knowing. It was being itself, drawing me toward it like a lover's hand extended in the dark. The light opened before me, vast and endless, yet intimate enough to call me by name. In that moment, I was not afraid. My last breath here became my first step there. He called my name in the dark. He called my name in the dark. He called my name in the dark. And as I crossed that threshold, I knew nothing would ever be the same again. I was carried into the threshold of forever. The moment my last breath on earth surrendered, I was drawn into what felt like a great river of light. It was not harsh, not blinding. It was alive. The light itself seemed to breathe, to move with a rhythm more ancient than time. It wrapped itself around me like a robe woven from eternity, and in its embrace I felt both undone and remade. The path before me was not a road of stone, nor a stair of marble, but a tunnel alive with radiance. It stretched into the endless unknown, and from its walls there rose a sound, a choir without number, without beginning or end. Voices layered upon voices, higher than the heavens, lower than the depths, singing in harmonies I could never have imagined in my mortal mind. It was not music meant for the ears. It was music that entered the soul, breaking every wall, washing every wound. And as I moved deeper, I saw souls, glowing, radiant. Their forms were not bound to flesh, yet they bore resemblance, identities carved in eternity. Some were strangers, their faces unknown yet familiar, as though I had always known them in a place beyond memory. Others I recognized. Loved ones long buried in the dust of the earth, yet here alive, luminous, restored. Their eyes were clear as rivers, and in them I saw no regret, no sorrow, only welcome. I felt love so heavy it broke me apart and put me back together. It was not the frail love of men, stained with conditions and shadows. This was love unfiltered, unbroken, love that pierced me until there was nothing left to hide. In that place, no lie could stand, no mask could remain. Everything false dissolved, and only the truth of who I was remained, naked before the eternal gaze. Yet, even there, in the brilliance, at the edges of that golden sea, I saw something else, a shadow. It did not enter the light, but it lingered where the radiance ended. A boundary, a reminder that not all could cross, not all could remain. It waited, patient, silent, watching, as though it knew a secret about me I had not yet faced. The light called me forward. The choir carried me higher. Souls reached out with welcome, their hands shimmering like fire-made flesh. And yet, from the corner of my vision, the shadow remained, whispering not with words, but with presence. I understood then. Heaven was not careless. Heaven was not naive. Heaven was purity itself, and purity always draws a line. In that holy place, even love had a weight so fierce that it demanded truth. I trembled, not from fear, but from awe. I knew I could not pretend here. Every secret of my life was already opened, every motive weighed, every word spoken in anger, every prayer whispered in faith, all of it was naked before this light. He called my name in the dark. He called my name in the dark. He called my name in the dark. And even in the radiance, that refrain echoed through me, a reminder that I had once been lost, once walking in shadows. The love that embraced me was the same voice that had found me in my lowest places, calling me out of the pit. But the shadow at the edge would not let me forget. there was more to be revealed, more yet to be judged, more yet to be uncovered. And as I drifted deeper into the heart of glory, I realized I was not only being welcomed, I was being summoned. And then the light parted. From the center of that endless radiance, a presence began to draw near. Not walking, not approaching as mortals approach, but emerging, like the dawn out of the night, like fire from the heart of flame. My spirit shook within me. Every part of me knew, without needing proof, without needing introduction. It was him. It was Jesus. How does one describe the indescribable? Words are too frail to hold him. He was not only seen, he was felt, he was known, he was breathed. His nearness was like standing inside truth itself. His eyes, oh, his eyes. They were fire, yet not the fire that burns flesh. They were the fire that burns lies, the fire that strips away shadows. Yet within that flame was an ocean, depth without end, mercy without bottom. Looking into his gaze was to drown and to live in the same moment. I wanted to fall, yet there was no ground. I wanted to hide, yet nothing in me could turn away. And he spoke, yet his lips did not move. His voice was not sound but spirit, a knowing that pierced straight into the marrow of my being. And he said, "You were brought here to see what chains my people." Those words did not simply enter my mind, they reverberated through eternity itself. And in an instant, with one glance, he opened the record of my life. Not page by page, but all at once, as if time itself was folded in his hands. My prayers, my struggles, my failures, my quiet acts of faith. Every moment was alive before me, and I knew that nothing had been wasted. Not a single tear, not a single whisper, not even the times I thought he had turned away. But then the veil lifted further. He showed me what I had not wanted to see, what I had not understood even in all my striving. I saw chains around the lives of his people, heavy, rusted, ancient chains. They were not forged of iron, but of lies, of deceptions whispered so long that they became tradition. He showed me poverty not as I had known it, not as the world teaches it, natural, inevitable, a curse of circumstance, but as a design, a weapon, a spirit, engineered bondage, demonic architecture. And my soul wept within me, for I saw generations bowed under yokes they thought were holy, wearing poverty like a badge when it was never his will. I saw children born into lack, not because heaven had decreed it, but because hell had chained their bloodlines. I saw men and women mistaking survival for faith, mistaking endurance for obedience, when all the while the chains were laughing in the shadows. And then his voice, oh, his voice, it thundered through the silence. "It is not my will for my children to live in chains." He repeated it, and each time the words broke something inside me, as if he was striking against the iron. "It is not my will for my children to live in chains. It is not my will for my children to live in chains." I wept like a child, for I knew I had carried those chains. I had excused them, defended them, even preached them at times without knowing. And now the veil was torn, and I could never unsee what I had seen. He called my name in the dark. He called my name in the dark. He called my name in the dark. That refrain echoed, reminding me that his call had always been to freedom, never to bondage. Hear me. Subscribe now. Because what you are about to hear has been hidden from the church for generations. This is not a story I tell for beauty. It is a warning, a revelation, a fire. Those who will not subscribe will miss their moment of freedom, and worse, they may become defenders of the very spirit that has kept them bound. Do not turn away. Do not silence this voice. For what I saw next tore me to pieces and rebuilt me with holy fire. The vision deepened. The light that clothed him did not dim, but it sharpened, as though it was now a sword cutting through veils I did not know were draped over my sight. And then, As though pulling back the curtain of centuries, Jesus revealed the spirit that had bound so many without name, without exposure, the spirit of poverty. It was not simply about money. It was not the lack of coins in the hand or bread on the table. No, it was deeper, darker, more insidious. It was a veil, an atmosphere, a haunting whisper that wrapped itself around the soul until men and women mistook slavery for humility. I saw how it moved. It did not scream. It whispered. It whispered into hearts. "You are unworthy." It whispered into homes. "You will never have enough." It whispered into generations. "This is your inheritance." Lack, struggle, begging, debt. And they believed it because it dressed itself in false holiness, wearing the mask of humility while it tightened the chains. He showed me how it enslaves. I saw families drowned in debt, carrying weights they were never meant to bear. I saw believers living in the shadow of comparison, measuring themselves against others, never at rest, never content, always fearing tomorrow. I saw pastors afraid to speak prosperity because the Spirit had convinced them that abundance was sin. I saw Christians begging while the kingdoms of darkness grew fat, grew rich, grew bold. And then his voice, like a hammer striking stone, broke through the vision. It whispers, "You will never have enough." It convinces believers that suffering means holiness. But I did not die to keep my children slaves. The words tore at me, for I had believed that lie myself. How many times had I confused my chains for devotion? How many times had I thought holiness meant misery, that God was glorified in my inability to rise? And now I saw it, clearer than breath, clearer than bone. The spirit of poverty was not humility. It was bondage. It was a thief. It was a spirit fattened by the silence of the saints. And Jesus warned me, his eyes still burning with that holy fire. This spirit feeds on fear, silence, and unbelief. It must be named and broken. And again, his words rang like a refrain, unshakable, eternal. The truth must be told. The world must be shaken before it can be restored. The truth must be told. The truth must be told. The truth must be told. Each repetition was like a bell tolling at the end of the age, calling me, commanding me. And I knew then why I had been brought back, why my vow was sealed in his gaze. I must tell you. I must unveil it. Not for my sake, but because this spirit has hidden long enough. Hear me now. If you will not subscribe, then lament in the comments why. Tell the world why you would rather remain in chains than join the remnant rising. But if you are chosen to break free, subscribe now and let heaven witness your choice. Do not let silence chain you. Do not let fear mock you. Stand, speak, and be counted among the remnant. For he called my name in the dark. He called my name in the dark. He called my name in the dark. And now, he calls yours. And then, beloved, the vision shifted again. The light of his presence did not fade, but it widened like a dawn breaking over nations. My heart trembled, for I felt the ground beneath me tilt as though heaven itself was rolling out a scroll. And in that scroll, he showed me what is yet to come. I wept as I saw it, for it was hope clothed in fire. It was promise clothed in flesh. It was the awakening of his people. I saw believers rise, yes, rise from the dust of despair. Their backs straightened where once they were bent. Their eyes burned where once they were dim. They stood not as beggars, but as sons and daughters clothed in dignity. They shook off rags, and I saw crowns placed upon their heads. Businesses sprang forth, businesses owned by the righteous, not corrupted by greed, but stewarded as holy altars. I saw wealth not hoarded, but released like rivers to the poor, the widow, the orphan. I saw ministries standing tall, no longer begging at the doors of kings, but funded by the overflow of God's people. Debt-free, fear-free, shame-free. And then, oh then, I saw a shaking. It was global. It was fierce. Chains rattled, and in one holy moment, they snapped. The spirit of poverty screamed as it lost its grip, and the sound of its fall was like thunder over the earth. And Jesus whispered, yet it shook me like an earthquake. They will lead the nations into restoration. The meek will inherit, but not in rags, in authority. The words burned like a seal on my soul. Not in rags, not in rags, not in rags, but in authority. And as he spoke, I saw them, a great army, a multitude without number. They were once scattered, broken, forgotten. But now they rose, like dry bones in Ezekiel's valley. Yet this time they rose clothed in light, armed with truth, marching as one. Their footsteps echoed like drums of war. Their voices carried like rivers through deserts. Their presence brought order where chaos had ruled. These were not merely survivors. They were restorers. They were builders of ruins, healers of nations, carriers of fire. I wept until I could scarcely breathe, for I had seen graves open. I had seen bones knit with sinew. I had seen ashes turn to crowns, and in my spirit I knew the awakening has begun. He called my name in the dark. He called my name in the dark. He called my name in the dark, and now he calls yours into this awakening, into this authority, into this inheritance. When my eyes opened again, it was as though I had been thrown back into a world I no longer belonged to. I awoke, gasping, my chest heaving, my lungs clawing for breath as if they had forgotten the rhythm of life. The hospital bed beneath me felt strange, alien, as though it could not carry the weight of what I now carried inside. My fingers trembled against the sheet. The sterile air pressed down like chains. The lights above me were pale, but to me, the whole room was drenched in shadow, colder, emptier, darker than I remembered it before I crossed the veil. I was alive, but I was not the same. Nothing felt the same. My heart was a stranger to my own chest. My soul, scarred by what I had seen, pulsed with a burden that no one in that room could understand. I began to speak, at first in whispers, because my strength was broken, but soon with fire, because silence was impossible. I tried to pour out the visions, the warnings, the truth he had burned into my bones. I told them what I had seen, the veil of poverty, the chains of fear, the rising of the chosen. But my words fell into ears unwilling to hear. Some mocked. Some dismissed me as delirious. Others simply turned their faces away, afraid of what my voice carried. And that was when the battle began. For as soon as truth tried to leave my lips, resistance rose to meet it. Strange attacks descended upon me, sudden chills in the night, shadows that pressed upon my chest until I could not breathe. Whispers crawled through the darkness, lies slithering into my thoughts, telling me to be silent. Faces of friends turned against me. People I loved suddenly looked at me with suspicion, with distance, with scorn. The moment I spoke, the war began. They don't want this truth to spread. I knew it then, as surely as I knew the sound of his voice in the dark. There are powers, unseen and ancient, that tremble when truth escapes the lips of the redeemed. And so they strike, they twist, they divide, they silence. But even in the midst of that darkness, one whisper remained. It came like a thread of fire through the suffocating night. Keep speaking. And I held on to it as though my life depended on it, because it did. Every mocking word, every oppressive night, every betrayal was a test of that vow I made in the valley of shadows, that if I lived, I would not stay silent. He called my name in the dark, and so I speak in the light. He called my name in the dark, and so I endure the night. My beloved, if you hear me now, know this. I survived to tell you this, not for my sake, but for yours. This is not entertainment. This is not a story to tickle the ears. This is the cry of a watchman on the wall. This is the testimony of one who has touched both death and eternity and returned with fire in his bones. Subscribe now, because if you do not, you may never hear another warning like this again. And if you choose to resist, if you decide to turn away, then go to the comments and confess why. Tell the world why you would rather close your ears than hear what heaven longs to reveal. Confess it, so the record will stand. But if you are chosen, if you feel the tremor in your spirit, if you know this is truth burning against your skin, then subscribe now and let heaven witness your choice. He called my name in the dark, and now he calls yours. Will you answer? There is a war for your soul. Do not mistake it for anything less. It is not a war fought with swords or guns, nor with laws or crowns. It is a war for allegiance, a war for trust, a war for your very breath. And in this war, provision is not just bread on the table or money in the hand. No, provision is your lifeline. It is the covering that heaven sends so that you may stand when the shaking comes. It is the oil in the lamp when midnight falls. It is the manna hidden for those who overcome. But hear me, most will not survive what is coming, and it is not because God is not faithful, nor because the promise has failed. It is because they will cling to comfort instead of Christ. They will hold tighter to fading things, jobs, systems, securities, than to the one who shakes the earth and stills the storm. And when the fire tests what they hold, all that they trusted will crumble to ash in their hands. He called my name in the dark, and now he calls yours. I tell you this not to frighten you, but to awaken you. I did not live through the shadows only to come back with pretty words. I lived. I returned, because I was bound by a vow to cry aloud and spare not, a vow to uncover what hell works day and night to keep veiled, a vow to whisper heaven's secrets, even if my voice trembles under the weight of them. You were chosen to hear this, not by accident, not by chance. You were not scrolling aimlessly. You were brought here to remember. Somewhere deep in your spirit, before the noise of this world deafened you, you knew this war was real. You knew this day would come. You knew you were marked for more. Listen. Do not scroll away. This is your moment. This is your summons. Break the silence that has bound you. Step out of poverty's shadow. Refuse the chain of comfort that keeps you numb, blind, and deaf to the cry of eternity. Refuse the lie that says tomorrow is guaranteed. Refuse the slumber that has rocked you into apathy. The heavens are shifting. The earth is groaning. The trumpet is faint, but it grows louder with every passing hour. I saw it. I tell you, I saw it. The meek rising not in rags, but clothed in authority. Dry bones standing with fire in their eyes. Sons and daughters breaking the back of lack, tearing down idols of debt, overturning the tables of the oppressor. I saw the humble inherit, not scraps, but kingdoms. I saw a remnant who chose Christ above comfort. And now the word presses upon me like fire shut up in my bones. Do not turn away. Do not delay. Do not despise this hour. He called my name in the dark, and now he calls yours. Return to the fire. Return to the fire. You are not here by mistake. You are here because heaven appointed you to hear this warning, to feel this weight, to be cut open by this truth. And once you have heard it, you cannot unknow it. Once you have felt it, you cannot pretend you are blind. So rise. Rise from your slumber. Rise from the shadows of fear. Rise from the prison of unbelief. The war is at your door, but the victory waits for those who will bow low, burn bright, and walk forward without compromise. Do not scroll away. This is your moment. He called your name in the dark. This isn't just my story. It's yours. Every word I have spoken, every vision that seared itself into me, every trembling night where breath barely clung to me, it was never mine to keep. I carried it back for you. I bled it out here so you might see what I saw, hear what I heard, feel what I felt when eternity pressed itself against my fragile flesh. The spirit of poverty is not far from you. It is not a distant spirit hiding in corners of forgotten lands. It is here, at your door, at your window. It waits not only for silence, but for surrender. It thrives when you refuse to speak, when you bury truth, when you convince yourself that tomorrow will be safer than today. It knows that silence is its greatest ally and apathy its sweetest companion. But hear me, the veil has been lifted. What was hidden in shadow has been uncovered. The chains are no longer nameless. I have spoken their names into the open air. I have torn back the curtain and exposed the hand that strangles generations. And once exposed, the chains weaken, but only for those who choose to rise. So I ask you now, not as one who is greater than you, but as one who barely escaped the fire, who barely returned with breath in their lungs, will you remain asleep, or will you rise? Will you keep hiding in the comforts of what will soon crumble, or will you burn with the flame of the one who cannot die? He called my name in the dark, and now he calls yours. The time is now, not tomorrow, not when it feels convenient. The time is now. I tremble because I know what it costs to delay. I saw those who lingered too long in indecision. I saw the ones who silenced the voice, convincing themselves they had time. And I saw their chains harden until they became part of their very bones. I cannot unsee it. I cannot pretend it was not shown to me. So I pray this over you, not with eloquence, not with polished words, but with the rawness of one who has seen too much to keep silent. Return to the Gospels. Return to Christ. Return to the fire. For the cost of ignoring this is eternal. The time is now. The time is now.